established right there. Boy, he didn't leave us where we were, but he brought us up with him. And how many of you are glad on the day that it didn't stop on that Friday? But when they took him from judgment hall to judgment hall, as he went from place to place being guilty of a crime he never committed, but being able to be guilty of, being able to take my sins away and buying me with his blood. He was guilty of that, but he was not guilty of anything else. As they said, went from judgment hall saying guilty, guilty, guilty. And as we see Christ going and being able to be talked about and being spit on and being able to have his garments ripped off from him like this and being able to be cast away, just to know that he's saving the same people who's building on all his clothes, that's being over there, that's whipping him for all of our chastisement, who's been over there talking about him as they nailed the name print over his head. They said the King of Jews, just to make a mockery of him. If he can save everybody else, why can't he save himself? But I'm so glad that he decided not to do it at that time. Because as he continued to walk down and started to do things, he saw me in the midst. And as he continued to walk, and he carried his cross, that piece of wood that he was God enough to create, but God enough to be able to hang on. He started to walk on it. As he continued to go to that place called Golgotha, called Calvary, he started to look at us and saw that we was over there and all that he was going to do. No matter how much he was going to go through, he saw that he was going to die for our sins and be able to set us free. So that's how God can smile on us, for he truly set me free. And as he continued to go from place to place, and as he continued to drag on that cross, that old rugged cross, as they got finally to the destination called Golgotha, called Skull, they saw him there, and then they ripped him naked. Because if we could take everything from him, we think he ain't going to be able to do nothing else if we take it from him. So as they continue to look at him and make fun of him, they nailed his hand in the cross, in the wood, and they nailed the other hand in the cross, and he didn't say mumbling word. But then he put his feet together and nailed it, and then they thought it was all over. But then when they raised him up and didn't realize what was going on, for he said, if you raise me up, I'll draw all men unto me. And they didn't realize what was going on. So as they brought it up and they set him down, and as they could see my Jesus, my Lord and Savior, his hands coming down, and as he fell and said, Father, please forgive them, for they know not what they do. Because it wasn't the fact that he was a bastard, but the angels was crying around saying, just give me the word and I'll come down there and handle this. But he decided to stay there, and he stayed there for each and every one of us. For the nails did not hold him there, but love held him there. And I thank Jesus for that, because as they continued to nail into his hands and into his feet, and they hung him down, and he hung from the 9th or the 6th to the 9th hour. And he didn't say, they didn't take the spirit away from him, but he said, I give it freely. And as he gave it up, it wasn't done then, because they thought it was all over. So as he hung his head, and the earth began to quake, and the moon and the stars wouldn't shine, for he had so much power that they said, I was not going to shine if the Lord and Savior was gone. And I thank God for that, because even in the midst of the darkness and the earthquake, he was handling his Father's business. Because the devil thought they had him. For Friday, the priest and everybody else came around and said, this Jesus that you're talking about, why is he still hanging on the cross? I thought he could come down. What's going on? And then the Sexron, who didn't even know him, said, this must have been the Son of God. For there's evidence that's happening. For the church didn't work, but we know when we pierced him on the side, there was a shaking on the earth, that something changed. For the veil was ripped from the top to the bottom, which represented the fact that we could come into the holies of holies, that we can come into his presence and not have to worry about nobody else coming for us, but be able to watch boldly into the throne of his glory. So as this began to happen and the earth began to shake, they thought he was a failure because he didn't come up on Saturday. But they don't know it's part of the plan, because if he would have came up on Saturday, he would have forgot about all those that were down there, and he couldn't get the keys of hell. But I'm so glad on this morning that it wasn't over. But he got up on Sunday morning with all power in his hand. For the gates of hell was in his hands. For he had the keys of heaven and hell in his hands. And I thank God for it, because he didn't just get up by himself, but he brought us with him. And I thank God for the awesome sacrifice that he did for me. Because not only did he just sit there, but he rose 3 days later with all power.